I'd like to say welcome to MKTG 403 Electronic Marketing Essentials. This is our second session. And in today's session, we will be looking at the process of e-marketing planning and the end product of the e-marketing planning process, which is the e-marketing plan. So as usual, by the end of the session, there are two main learning outcomes that we hope to achieve. The first one being to be able to explain the nature and importance of e-marketing planning as a process, and then developing an e-marketing plan. And then we will also be able to understand and explain the stages in e-marketing planning, its implementation, and evaluation. Sorry, a moment. Loretta. Yes. I don't understand. Yes, it's MKTG 617. All right. Okay. Okay, please, sorry about that. I think we will have to start over. Give me a moment. Yeah. Okay, we're back online. Okay, so once again, welcome to MKTG 403 Electronic Marketing Essentials. This is our second session. And in today's session, there are two main learning outcomes that we hope to achieve by the end of the session. The first one being to be able to explain the nature and importance of e-marketing planning, as well as the importance of developing an e-marketing plan. And then we will also be able to understand and explain the stages in e-marketing planning, its implementation, as well as the evaluation of the e-marketing plan execution process. So let's get into the lecture. Before we start, I'd like to lead with a quote by Picasso, and it goes like this. Our goals can only be reached through the vehicle of a plan, in which we must fervently believe and upon which we must vigorously act. There is no other route to success. I take it again. Our goals can only be reached through the vehicle of a plan, in which we must fervently believe and upon which we must vigorously act. There is no other route to success. And this quote, in a nutshell, captures all that we are going to be discussing in today's course. Given that we are espousing the importance of developing an e-marketing plan, which we are going to try as much as possible to vigorously act upon to ensure that we can be able to successfully achieve our e-marketing objectives. So with that, let's go straight into the discussion on e-marketing planning. So what is e-marketing planning? E-marketing planning is basically a process that involves creating a blueprint. So blueprint here is comparable to the blueprint that we draw up when we are building homes, right? That the architect has to follow to be able to ensure that the home is put up with all the right specifications and everything being put in the right place. So we can say a similar thing for the e-marketing process, which involves creating the blueprints, which we will subsequently be referring to as the e-marketing plan. That is meant to guide our e-marketing strategy formulation and implementation. So this e-marketing plan that we are going to have as a product of the entire process of e-marketing planning is normally an offshoot of the general marketing plan of the organization. Because the general marketing plan of the organization has as a subsection how technology is going to be utilized to be able to achieve the general marketing objectives of the firm. And a core part of this is electronic marketing, which we are focusing on in our discussions. So we say that the e-marketing plan as a must be developed based on the specifications of the general marketing plan of the organization and the objectives that it is set to achieve. So what can we say about the e-marketing plan? It serves as a roadmap that is going to guide us as marketers to take the firm in the direction that it wishes to go. Meaning that with the clear, realistic, and measurable objectives that we will outline in our e-marketing plan, we can be able to ensure that we will help the organization deliver the desired results based on the objectives that they have stated as part of their marketing plan, which is directly derived from the firm's general business plan and the general objectives that the firm hopes to achieve. And the way by which we can be able to determine the appropriate, effective, and efficient implementation of these various plans is by using clear performance metrics, because we cannot manage what we do not measure. So we need to have performance metrics to be able to measure all these various plans and tactics and strategies that we are putting in place, to be able to ensure that we can manage them and make sure we are on course towards achieving the objectives that we set out to achieve in the first place. So that being said, let's go into a discussion on the e-marketing plan, which is the ultimate product of the e-marketing planning process. Now, before we can be able to appreciate the various sections of the e-marketing plan and what goes into it, we need to understand the nature of the e-marketing plan. So as we have already said, the e-marketing plan is a blueprint for our e-marketing strategy formulation and its implementation. Now, it is worthy to note that the e-marketing plan is a dynamic document. Dynamic in the sense that it is not static. It changes and evolves with the times. Now, when the firm is operating, in any context that the firm finds itself operating in, it is subject to the changes within the micro and macro environment that the firm exists in. So when we talk about a micro environment, we are referring to a group of actors and circumstances that are within the immediate confines of the organization that they can control to some extent. At the same time, the actors in this micro environment are influenced by and also influence the organization, such that whatever they do has a direct effect on the organization and how well it is able to achieve its objectives. Now, there are certain key actors in this micro environment that we need to be able to pay attention to. And these include customers, competitors, suppliers, and intermediaries. Now, these are specific to the online environment, because when we talk about the online environment and how it affects marketing activities, these four actors that I have mentioned play a significant role in how the firm does business on the internet medium. And therefore, we need to pay close attention to them, being that they are the key actors in the micro environment, to be able to understand the role that they play and how it influences the organization. Again, beyond the micro environment, we have what we refer to as the macro environment. That contains actors and circumstances that are way beyond the control of the organization, such that they can only react to changes that take place in this environment, because they have no means of controlling what goes on within this context. So the firm has to consistently monitor what is happening in this context through what we refer to as environmental scanning, and then go ahead and develop a situation analysis to ascertain the strengths and weaknesses, as well as the opportunities and threats that these environments pose to their operations as a firm. And these environments are inherently dynamic, such that they change in real time. So as soon as there's a change in either of these environments, be it the micro or the macro environment, the firm immediately has to adjust itself and make a change to be able to respond to these changes that have taken place, so that the firm and its marketing operations are not adversely affected. And that is why we say the e-marketing plan is dynamic, because with these changes come changes in the e-marketing plan. And therefore, we cannot call it a static document, but rather a dynamic one, right? Likewise, we can call the e-marketing plan a guiding document that links the firm's e-business strategy with its technology-driven marketing activities. Like I mentioned earlier, the e-marketing plan does not exist in a vacuum. It exists because the firm has a tactic or a strategy of applying technology to some of its activities. Remember last week we discussed the value chain and the various activities in the value chain and how technology can be able to support them. Now, e-business or internet business refers to the application of digital technology to the support activities and primary activities as outlined in the value chain. And marketing and sales happens to be one of the primary activities within the value chain. Therefore, to be able to develop an excellent e-marketing plan, we need to be able to understand the firm's e-business strategy, to be able to make sure that the e-marketing plan that we develop conforms to this e-business strategy that has already been developed, right? So that being said, we also need to take cognizance of the fact that the e-marketing plan is an offshoot of the overall marketing plan of the firm. So in as much as we are integrating the e-marketing plan with the firm's e-business strategy, we also need to make sure that it is equally integrated with the firm's overall marketing plan so that they can come together in the form of synergy to ensure that the general objectives of the firm are being achieved. So in a nutshell, that is the nature of the e-marketing plan. And now that we know this, we can ask the question, what is the importance of the e-marketing plan? First, we can talk about the fact that the e-marketing plan serves as a roadmap to guide the firm in the direction that it wishes to take. Because without direction, you will not know where you are going. Without knowing how to get to your destination, you will never be able to get to that destination. So the roadmap gives us a guide of what we need to do to be able to get to this destination that we are looking forward to getting to. And that is the role that the e-marketing plan plays. It also plays the role of an object or a tool that is often required when seeking funding. Because let's face it, marketers are very keen on spending money because we believe you spend money to get money. However, this view is not always shared by other arms of the organization and other departments, particularly those departments that are responsible for the management of the funds of the organization, especially the accounting and finance departments. So whenever there is a meeting or a discussion where we have to agree on how to budget for specific activities that the firm has to undertake to be able to keep the business going, marketers and finance and accounting people always get into a row because they do not understand why we need all the resources that we need to be able to do what we are saying we are going to do. Because bear in mind, a lot of the things that marketers promise to do is not immediately quantifiable. So it becomes difficult to be able to convince these other parties to be able to release the funds that we need to undertake these activities. So the most tangible means by which we can convince them of how we intend to put to use the resources that we are asking for and the returns that we hope to gain by utilizing these resources is by putting together a plan. And in this case, to be able to get funds to undertake our e-marketing activities, we need an e-marketing plan to detail how we are going to utilize these resources and the overall returns that it is going to bring to the organization. Also, the e-marketing plan helps us to set clear, realistic, and measurable objectives for our e-marketing activities. Like I said, we cannot manage what we do not measure. So you need to have clear objectives to guide you as to what you are supposed to be doing. And once you know what you are supposed to be doing, you know how to go about measuring it to determine whether or not you are actually on course in what you are doing towards reaching your ultimate goal. Next, we can talk about the fact that the e-marketing plan helps the firm to allocate resources and make adjustments as needed. Resources are not unlimited. We always have resource constraints and will continue to have this challenge in every organization. Therefore, in developing an e-marketing plan, we are trying to outline those key activities that we need to perform as a must to ensure that our e-marketing objectives are achieved, which will ultimately contribute towards achieving the larger goal of fulfilling our overall marketing plan, as well as fulfilling our overall business plan. So with the e-marketing plan, we know how to be able to allocate our resources and which activities to allocate these resources to. And given that the e-marketing plan incorporates an element of evaluation, we will be able to determine from time to time where we are not on course towards achieving our objectives and make the necessary adjustments in terms of resource allocations to ensure that we get back on course towards achieving these objectives, which will serve the larger goal of helping to achieve other higher organizational objectives. Also, we can talk about the fact that the e-marketing plan guides the delivery of desired results measured by performance metrics. Again, without knowing the tactics, the strategies, and the activities that you are performing, you will not be able to know the necessary metrics that you need to put down to measure the outcomes of these activities to determine whether or not they are being executed in an efficient and effective manner. And finally, we can talk about the fact that the e-marketing plan details for the implementation of the plan through marketing management. We have established that the e-marketing plan is an offshoot of the marketing plan. Therefore, resources that we need to undertake the activities and tactics outlined in our e-marketing plan will flow directly from the general marketing plan and the resources that have been allocated to it. Therefore, we need to be able to outline these activities in our e-marketing plan to be able to communicate to whoever is in charge of the marketing management within the firm and the resource deployment for marketing management, what we will need under e-marketing to be able to successfully achieve our objectives. And with that, we have outlined 6 key importances of the e-marketing plan and why we need to have one as marketers. So with that, let's go ahead and talk about the 7-step e-marketing plan. Before we do so, is there anything that anyone has to say? Any comments they have or question that they have to ask or contribution they want to make? Please feel free to raise your hand and I'll give you the opportunity. Manav Isa, you can't access your Sakai. Well noted. I'll see if I can add you after the class. Bafa Pia, please come in.
Hello, Doc. And please,
yes,
you
please.
mentioned some micro agents. The customer, the supplier.
Yes, I mentioned actors within the micro environment.
Yes. And you said you mentioned the intermediates.
Intermediaries.
Please, who would you consider intermediaries? Sorry, who will you consider as intermediaries?
Okay, so intermediaries are basically those actors that mediate between the seller and the buyer in the online medium. They facilitate the interaction between the buyer and the seller to ensure that the product gets from the buyer to the seller. So as one student in one of my classes put it, they are the wholesalers and retailers of the internet. Does it make sense?
Okay.
Does it make sense?
Yes, it does. So, example could be like Tonaton.
Good. So they bring buyers and sellers together.
Yes.
I hope you understand it now.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Okay, Alimatu, you also can't access it. All right, I'll do my best to add you after the class. Okay, moving on. So now that we have appreciated all that we discussed in relation to e-marketing planning and the nature of the e-marketing plan, let's delve into the 7 steps that will lead us to develop the final product of the e-marketing plan. Lawrence, if you can't access Sakai, I would need your name and your index number. So please provide that in the chat section. Okay, thank you. Yes, so the 7-step e-marketing plan, like the name suggests, is made up of 7 steps. We have the situation analysis, the e-marketing strategic planning process, which leads us into our specific e-marketing objectives. And then it leads us directly to develop the specific strategies that will help us to be able to achieve these objectives. And then once we have our strategy, we go into breaking down the tactics that we will implement to be able to ensure that these strategies are effectively and efficiently executed. And then we will also develop a budget to go with all the activities that we are performing and the resource requirements that they will entail. And then ultimately, we'll create an evaluation plan to help us to keep an eye on whether or not we are on track or when we have fallen off the rails to be able to adjust ourselves and get back on track towards achieving the overall business objectives. So we are going to take them one after the other, and then we will discuss them. So let's start with step 1, which involves the situation analysis. So when we perform a situation analysis, we are basically trying to ascertain what our situation is as an organization in relation to the micro and macro environment and the changes that are going on within this environment. At the same time, too, we are also looking at what we have to do in relation to the overall organizational marketing plan and the firm's overall e-business strategy, and how we can be able to feed whatever it is that we are developing into these overall plans and strategies. So in the situation analysis, there are three main stages that we go through. The first stage involves reviewing the micro and macro environment. And here, like I mentioned, the micro environment is made up of 4 key actors that can be referred to as customers, intermediaries, suppliers, and competitors. And then with the macro environment, we can talk about the general actors that we can outline using models such as PESTLE model and the PEST model. Please, who has heard of these models before? The PESTLE and the PEST model. Okay, Nuruddin, can you help us out? What is the PESTLE model about?
Yeah, the PESTLE model is basically an acronym that talks about the political, economic, the society, and then the technology put together. So if you're going to explain in the macro environment, businesses don't have influence on the political landscape, as in how to manage the country and so on. So they have to monitor and so on.
Yeah. Good. Thank you very much, Nuruddin. So that means that the firm has to be able to know what is happening within these markets, right? And as marketers, we need to be able to monitor these activities in a consistent manner, because we need to be able to have information in real time to be able to take actionable decisions that will ultimately influence our strategy towards achieving organizational success. Therefore, what we do with regards to the micro and macro environment is engage in what we call environmental scanning. So this scanning consistently helps us to be able to identify what we refer to as strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that can be found in the micro and macro environment, and how we can be able to use these strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats to fuel our e-marketing strategy to make it better, right? We can also talk about the fact that we need to review the firm's existing marketing plan and any other information that can be obtained about the company and its brands. Now, I put this question to the class. Why should we care about the firm's existing marketing plan and any other information that can be obtained about the company and its brands? Why should we care? We are developing an e-marketing plan. What has it got to do with the firm's marketing plan and their brands and stuff? Ekuyajan, come in.
Yeah, Doc. Thank you.
Yes.
So it comes in because before you develop something new, you have to look at the previous plan that was there, know the mistakes, the errors that you made that didn't help you achieve what you wanted to achieve, and to be able to help you work on a better plan in developing the new one.
Okay, good. Okay, that is part of it. But let's also look at it in terms of the fact that the existing plan is perhaps what we are building upon, right? Because remember, we mentioned the fact that the firm's existing marketing plan has as its sub the aspect of e-marketing. You remember? Yes. So yes, e-marketing being an aspect of the marketing plan, we have to be able to know what the marketing plan says about e-marketing to be able to develop a proper plan to achieve those objectives.
Yes.
Good. So indeed, it is important to review the firm's existing marketing plan, as well as any other information we can get about the firm's operations and its brands. All of these will influence significantly how we go about putting together the marketing plan. Lauren says the already existing plan shows you what has already been done and tells the direction the firm is headed in with regards to their e-marketing plan. Exactly. So with that information, you can be able to ensure that the plan that you are developing to manage the e-marketing activities is going to contribute directly towards helping to achieve this overall marketing plan, which you already know exists. Okay. So once we have done that, we also need to go ahead and look at the firm's e-business objectives, strategies, as well as the performance metrics that they are currently using to measure the success of their e-business activities. Now, why should we again care about the firm's e-business or internet business objectives and strategies? Why should we care? Okay, Manav says we want to know the firm's current situation. Indeed, but we are talking about specific current situations, not just in general, right? Yeah, Nuruddin, come in.
Yes, it is important to understand the firm's objective because the e-marketing objectives must be consistent with the firm's overall objective. So you are not developing a plan that is in isolation, but it has to be in tandem.
Good. Now, in relation to internet business, what did we say e-marketing was? We said that e-marketing had something special to do with e-business. Who remembers? I said it not long ago. This is like a pop quiz, but it's an open book quiz. What did we say about e-marketing and e-business, or e-marketing and internet business?
Look, you said
yes.
E-marketing has to do with the overall plan, and e-business has to do with a subset of the plan.
Okay, I think you are confusing them. Think about it and come again. You have switched them. One is a sub of the other. You are right about that. But you have
e-business is the overall. Yeah.
Okay, Ajan, can you hear me? Okay, Ajan, are you there?
Doc, I'm here.
So swap them back.
Okay, so e-business is the overall plan.
Good.
And then e-marketing is a subset of the plan.
Good. And Nuruddin agrees with you. Right? So like you rightly said, the e-marketing is the sub of the e-business, which we learned from the value chain concept, right? So we need to be able to understand the e-business if we are going to develop a proper e-marketing plan. And because of that, it is very important that we go through all these three stages. Otherwise, we will not have a clear picture of what the organization is up against. To be able to know what we have to be able to put in terms of objectives and strategy and tactics to be able to combat these various changes and occurrences in the environment. Bear in mind that all of these changes and occurrences are not all positive, because we are dealing with not just strengths and opportunities, we are also dealing with weaknesses and threats. So we need to be able to take advantage of the good and then protect ourselves against the bad, right? So like I said, this is a schemata of the e-marketing environment. And we can see the micro and macro environment and the various actors and players in these environments. Now, this is based off of Shafi and Ellis Shadwick, one of our core texts for the course. And this is specifically developed in relation to the digital marketing environment. So like I said earlier, we have suppliers, competitors, intermediaries, and customers all playing within this space, right? Which is the micro environment, and it is in the immediate confines of the organization. Whereas we have the macro environment that is a bit more removed from the organization, and the organization has very limited control over, right? And it's made up of actors and occurrences, which may include changes in technology, innovation, changes in society and social-cultural issues like public opinion and ethical constraints. And then we can also talk about the pest factors being political, economic, legal, all happening in both the international dimension and in the country-specific dimension, right? At the same time, too, we talked about the SWOT analysis, which has to do with identifying strengths and weaknesses, and then opportunities and threats. Now, of these, one pair is external to the organization, and another pair is internal to the organization. Which pair is external to the organization, and which pair is internal? No, Nuruddin, I want to hear new voices. Okay, Mida, go ahead. Mida, appear. Your microphone is on, but we can't hear you.
Hello, Doc. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
The strengths and weaknesses are the internal factors, and then the opportunities and threats are the external.
Good. So the strengths and weaknesses are internal, the opportunities and threats are external. So now that we know that, let's look at a typical SWOT analysis for an organization. Now, this is a SWOT analysis for Amazon way back in the day before they became the huge international giants that we know today. So Amazon started out as a group of smart, talented young people in tech who had a dream, right? And they knew that they wanted to be able to take advantage of an opportunity they had identified, right? But they first of all had to start by looking within to see what strengths they have and weaknesses that they had in relation to going after this dream that they had spotted in the external environment. So the strengths that they identified included, first of all, the fact that they were smart and talented and they were driven. And they had capabilities in technology that will enable them to be able to achieve what they had seen as an opportunity and they wanted to take advantage of. At the same time, too, they noticed that what opportunity they had seen did not have much potential for channel conflict, because at that time, what they wanted to do was to sell books online. And there was virtually no active seller of books online when Amazon decided to go into the business. So one strength they saw was the fact that there was less potential for channel conflict. However, they had one huge weakness, and that was the fact that they had no experience whatsoever selling books or even boxing books for shipment or processing credit card transactions, right? All of this was new territory for them. However, they were driven by the opportunity that they had seen. That back then, even though there were huge multinational and huge corporations who were selling books worldwide, they did not necessarily have any significant online presence for selling these books. And with that, Amazon saw a huge opportunity that they could take advantage of, right? But there were a number of threats that could bring to a quick halt this opportunity that they had seen that they wanted to take advantage of. And the number one threat was the fact that even though most of the firms had not launched a large scale push, right, to sell books online, they were nursing the dream. They were nursing the dream and they were in the planning stages of launching it, even though they had not fully launched it yet. So that was an imminent threat, that they had a direct competitor who was in plans and in talks to be able to also launch an online presence to sell books, right? Another major threat that they saw was in terms of data security. Back then, they did not have all the policies and draft policies that we had now regarding consumer privacy and security online. So they faced the threat of how they were going to handle all this personal information that consumers were going to be handing out online, including their names, their addresses, and their credit and debit card information. Similarly, they were threatened by the issue of foreign exchange rate fluctuations, because like we learned last week, when you are dealing with e-marketing or selling online in general, you need to be able to be cognizant of the fact that you are operating from a particular country or location that sells in one currency. However, you are selling to people in other parts of the world who use various other forms of currencies, whose exchange rates are different from those of your currency. So you need to bear in mind the implications that these differences in foreign exchange will have on the prices of the products that you sell, as well as your general operations in dealing with these customers overseas, right? So this in a nutshell shows us the strengths and weaknesses, as well as the threats and opportunities that Amazon identified. But from the looks of things, by being able to perform this SWOT analysis and do so effectively, Amazon was able to capitalize on the strengths and opportunities that they saw, and then forestall the threats and weaknesses that threatened their business idea that they had. And with time, it has grown into the huge multinational corporation that we have seen today. Their dream finally became a reality because they were able to see where there were potential dangers and be able to take the necessary steps to forestall these dangers. So once you have been able to perform a situation analysis to determine your situation, you can now go ahead and start doing some strategic planning, bearing in mind the outcome of the situation analysis that you performed. And under the e-marketing strategic planning step, the main thing that we do here includes determining the fit between the organization's objectives, skills and resources, and its changing market opportunities. This is because resources are not unlimited, like I have mentioned. So we need to be able to choose between competing interests all the time when it comes to making decisions, especially regarding market opportunities. Because every market opportunity that you identify, that you choose to take advantage of, comes with some element of risk. So you do not want to put all your eggs in one basket and commit all your limited resources to several market opportunities that you cannot even guarantee their eventual success. So here we look at the firm's overall objectives, the skills and resources that they have at their disposal, and the marketing opportunities that we have identified from our situation analysis to be able to see where there is a fit. And once we are able to understand the firm's objectives, the skills and resources that they have at their disposal, and compare it to the market opportunities, we end up engaging in what we refer to as a market opportunity analysis. And this is where we are looking at being able to select the correct opportunity that will give us the maximum returns, given the limited resources, skills, and capabilities that we have as an organization. So as part of e-marketing strategic planning, once you identify your opportunity, you usually do so in relation to the customer base that you have. And again, we do not have unlimited resources. Therefore, we cannot go ahead and serve every single customer or prospective customer that the firm has identified. And therefore, we need to engage in a number of tasks to be able to narrow down to the most profitable market segments that will give us the returns that we are looking for. So as e-marketers, we begin by segmenting the market. And when we talk about segmentation, we are referring to breaking up the market into identifiable groups using a number of factors. What are some of the factors that marketers use in segmentation?
No, can I
go ahead? Yes, go ahead.
Shelly, use
okay.
age.
Use age. Okay, age is an okay. So hold on. Age is an individual factor, right?
Yes.
But we have variables under which we can discuss these individual factors. So what variable does age fall under? Equia, what variable does age fall under? Equia, Jan.
Use the demographic factors.
Please, let's do this in an orderly fashion, okay? So, Equia, Jan, what variable does age fall under?
Age falls under demographic.
Good.
Segmentation.
So let's talk in terms of the variables. So Equia has given us one, the demographic variable. Ron, give us another one. Ron.
Doc, psychographic.
Psychographic, good. Right, that's another variable. So under that, you can talk about values and lifestyles and all that. Lawrence, give us another one.
Doc, we have geographic variable.
Geographic, exactly. That's the most common one. So Lawrence has given us another one, right? And then there's one more that is also very common.
The
behavioral differences.
Okay, but still another one.
Behavioral differences.
Apart from behavioral, there's still another one.
Income.
Nope, income is a factor under one of the variables. We are talking in terms of variables. There's one more variable, very common. Very, very common. Just like geographic. In fact, after geographic, that one usually comes.
Shelly, you want to try?
Yeah, Shelly, go ahead.
Psychographic.
Yeah. Ron mentioned psychographic, or was it? Yeah, Ron mentioned psychographic.
Can I say something else?
Go ahead.
Sociological.
Sociocultural. You came close.
Sorry.
Yes. Yes. Who is speaking?
Sorry, my name is Dorcas.
Dorcas. Okay. Yes. So it's sociocultural, right? That's very common. Usually we talk about demographics first, then we go to geographic, then we go to sociocultural before all the behavioral and psychographic and all those other things come, right? So you're all spot on. So we segment the market along these dimensions. And like Isaac is drawing our attention to in the chat section, we can even use creative combinations of these to be able to further streamline our segmentation, to be able to ensure that we have a better chance of targeting specific customer segment. So you can do geo-demographic segmentation. You can do geo-psychographic segmentation, right? You can do geo-sociocultural segmentation. All creative combinations are possible using these various segmentation variables. So once you are able to do so, you can be able to determine which group within the market you can effectively target with your market offering, be it a product or service, and ensure that they are the market you can serve and serve well with the resources that you have. So once you are able to target them, you can now know how to differentiate yourself to fit into that target market. Because bear in mind that the same way you as an organization have targeted them, other competing organizations have also targeted them. So you will have a bit of competition going on. So you need to differentiate yourself and your offering such that you are positioned in a manner to compete effectively with all these other competing brands. And the best way to differentiate yourself is to design your value proposition such that it positions you in a unique light in the mind of the consumer, such that whenever they have a need for a particular product within your category, you are the first organization that will come to mind when they have that need, and they will go straight to your brand to satisfy the need. Ikweaja, your hand is up. Or it's from the previous one?
Yeah. Yes, from this one, please.
Okay, all right. So by the time you finish your e-marketing strategic planning, you know which opportunities you are taking advantage of, which markets you are targeting, and how you are going to position and differentiate yourself to ensure that you have the attention of the customers within these markets. So once your strategic planning is complete, you can now go ahead and set your objectives. And here talking about the fact that your objectives must be made up of 3 core dimensions. First of all, your objective must detail the task that is to be accomplished. What are we supposed to do? Now, once you know what you're supposed to do, it is not enough. You need to be able to know how to quantify this thing that you're supposed to do. So for instance, you want to be able to get more followers on social media. It's not enough to say that you want to get more followers. You need to be able to quantify it. Do you want to get 5,000 followers? Do you want to get 10,000 followers, 20,000 followers? You need to put a number to it, because that's the only way you can be able to quantify the returns when you're developing your budget. And again, it's not enough to quantify. You have to be able to put a time frame to it, because we do not have unlimited resources. In as much as we do not have a lot of money to spare and waste, we also do not have time to waste. So we need to make sure that we do everything within a confined time frame. So it's not enough to just identify the task that you want to grow your followers to 10,000. You have given us a task and you have quantified it, but you need to also give us a time frame. So perhaps your page is currently at 1,000 followers, but you want to be able to grow it to 10,000 followers within the next 3 months. In that instance, you have created an objective that is both task specific, it's quantifiable, and it's going to occur within a given time frame. So that being said, we always attribute the SMART acronym to developing objectives. Now, we are going to identify the elements of the SMART acronym. So I need 5 people to give us each of the elements and what they stand for. So Shelley will go first. Then Nuruddin will come second. Ekweaja will go third. Alimatu fourth. We need 1 more person. So let's start. Shelley, let's go. What's the first one you're giving us?
SMART. The S.
Yes, the
Being
S.
specific.
Good.
Being specific.
So what does it mean in terms of your objective formulation? What does it mean in terms of formulating your objectives?
So you have to state, use action words. You don't go around before you arrive at what you want to do. You have to put your action straightforward for your consumers or your customers to know what you're about.
Good. So that is objectives. We need to hit the nail straight on the head, because even apart from your consumers, the objectives are more so for the internal customers, being the employees and the people who are going to be working towards achieving these objectives. So it has to be very clear so that they are not confused. So thank you, Shirley, for that. Nuruddin, the second one.
Okay. The second one is measurable.
Good. What does that mean?
You should be able to measure the objective. So when we are specific about the objective, say the number. So measurable, you say 5,000, for example. So how are you going to be able to achieve that 5,000?
Good.
And then
like
what is the value of that 5,000 to your objective?
Good. And like I always say, you cannot manage what you do not measure. So measurement is very important. Thank you, Nuruddin, for that one.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Doc, achievable. Your goals should be attainable. You have to look at what you have available. I'm talking about the A.
Yeah.
Achievable.
Good.
The goals you are setting should be attainable. You have to be able to look at your available opportunities and your resource before you make a goal. So you don't say, maybe you are looking at if you're able to complete the training in the next 24 hours. You have to look at your resources available. If you can't just set goals you can't attain.
Good.
So that's what the A stands for.
Exactly. And thank you for that, Ekuyajan. Alimatu, the fourth one. Alimatu, the fourth one.
Yes, Doc. So the fourth one is being realistic or being relevant with your objectives.
Come back again. So you are confusing two words, Alimatu. Realistic, being realistic and being relevant are not the same thing. In fact, if you talk about being
so we go with the relevant.
Good. So being realistic, there's already
relevant.
A letter. Yes, but I'm explaining something. Give me a moment. When you talk about being realistic, there's already an element in the acronym that represents being realistic. Who knows the element?
Doc, the A.
A. Good.
Yes.
Right. Yes. So which R are we going for?
Relevant.
Good. So now explain to us about the relevant.
So when you're setting your objective, it should be something that is relevant. It should make sense within your business plan. It shouldn't be something that is outside. Good. Something that does not, at the end of it, does not help you attain your objectives.
Good. Thank you for that, Halima. So indeed, relevance is key here, right? And then the last one, Lawrence.
Yes, Doc.
The
goals need to be time bound.
Exactly. Why?
So when setting goals, you don't need to set them in a vacuum of perpetuity, like with no time, with no. You need to set them in such a way that you are motivated by the time limit. So you have a point at which you have to measure to realize whether or not the goal has been achieved. If not, you could just keep going, whether you've achieved the goal or not.
Exactly, because time and tide wait for no man. So thank you for that, Lawrence. As a Kofosuhin, it seems you agreed with. Okay, you were confirming what we were talking about in terms of attainability being the same as being realistic. So thank you for that submission. Leila, too, unfortunately, Lawrence was the fifth person, so you may have to come in to answer another question. Nuruddin, your hand is up, or it's from the old one?
The old one, sorry, let me know.
Okay, all right. So now that we have created our SMART objectives, the next stage is to now formulate the strategies that will help us to achieve these objectives. And strategy formulation for us usually is done using our most basic set of tools, which is the marketing mix. So when we come to the online medium, because of the faceless nature of the online medium and the lack of physical contact, it behaves more like a service platform where we can apply all the 7 Ps to doing business on the internet. However, we generally like to focus more on the 4 Ps. So in terms of the 4 Ps, we can talk about everything from developing strategies relating to the physical product that we are selling or the service that we are selling online, which constitutes our offer. And then the pricing strategies that we are going to use to sell these products online. And usually when you're selling online, the idea is to communicate value to the consumer because they are spoiled for choice on the internet. So whatever pricing decisions you make must always culminate in value, not just for the customer, but for you yourself as a marketer. At the same time, too, we need to think about strategies relating to distribution and the supply chain, because most of the time, when we are selling online, we are dealing with the sale of physical products. So even though portions of the sale are completed online, we still need an element of offline activity to be able to ensure that the physical product gets from whatever warehouse or storage room it is being kept in to the final consumer for their consumption. At the same time, too, we need to think long and hard about communication. And that feeds directly into our promotional strategy. How are we going to promote ourselves online for all the prospective and current customers to learn about us and know more about us so that they'll keep doing business with us? And like I said, the additional 3 Ps that we have, being people, processes, and physical evidence, still come into play. Because even though we are operating online with a faceless medium, there are always people on the back end making sure that things run smoothly. From those who run the websites to those who manage the physical distribution of the product, right from the warehouse to the final consumer, among others, right? We can also talk about processes, the processes that are involved in completing transactions online to going through offline processes to make sure that they receive their products. At the same time, to physical evidence, what they see online and are promised online, does it translate to what they actually physically receive online? And that is why we talk about the fact that with the marketing mix and its application to e-marketing strategy, we are looking at the application of all the 7 Ps. But chiefly among these is the issue of relationship management, because it's not just enough to give the customers what they want. We also want to be able to keep them with us in a trusting relationship over an extended period of time. Because as marketers, we all know that it costs more to go after and recruit a new customer than to retain an existing one. So we always want to do our best to make sure that we are on good terms with our current customers so that we can be able to benefit from their loyalty into the long term. And the concept that surrounds it is what we refer to as customer lifetime value, because you will earn more from a customer over the lifetime that they spend with us than from the one-off or 2-time sales transactions that we engage in with them. So our e-marketing strategy must revolve not only around our marketing mix, but it should also revolve around relationship management practices. So specifically, in terms of promoting ourselves online, we can talk about the risk framework and how to use it to be able to guide our e-marketing strategy formulation. Now we can see that the risk framework is designed in the shape of a funnel, right? That trickles down right from the e-marketing planning stage. So by the time we are done with our planning, we have done our situation analysis, we know what opportunities are available for us, we've decided which ones we're taking advantage of, and we've decided the market segments that we are going to focus on. So now that we know who we are focusing on, we are going to use the RACE acronym to be able to fine-tune our strategy to ensure that we can be able to gain and keep the attention of the customer and carry them along all the way through to converting them into actual buyers of the products and services that we are selling. So it starts with the R in the acronym, which refers to reach. So under reach, our intention here is to be able to grow our audience. And in growing our audience, we use a combination of paid, owned, and earned media, which I believe we remember from our lecture last week. Once we have been able to get their attention and hold their attention, we now want to get them to act, which is a short form of interact. Because it is only through interactions with our customers that we can be able to get into their heads, understand what their needs and expectations are, and then convince them of our ability to satisfy those needs and expectations. So by doing this, of convincing them that we can satisfy their needs and expectations, we need to be able to get them to commit to some extent. Even though we can't get them to commit all the way to making an actual purchase, we can commit them to some initial steps that we can subsequently use to push them to make the final plunge of actually getting to purchase the product or service. So at the act stage, we do not only encourage interactions, we also encourage all activities that lead us to getting our prospective customers and current customers to subscribe to certain packages and then help us to generate enough leads that we can be able to move smoothly to the next stage, which is the convert stage, by converting all these leads that we have gathered into actual sales. Now, like I said, even though most transactions are facilitated through the online medium, not all transactions are completed online. Some transactions end up being completed offline. So when we talk about converting our audience to actual buyers of our product and service, that buying that they do or that purchase act can take place both online and in the offline environment, right? Now, once they have purchased the product, or be it online or offline, it's not enough for us. In fact, going by the concept of customer retention and customer loyalty, we do not want to lose them. So we will move on to the next and ultimate stage, which is to engage them. Now, the engagement stage, our main idea is to keep interacting with them and keep pushing them and prodding them such that it will cause them to come back to purchase more from us and thereby continue to engage in repeat business with us so that we can continue benefiting from them into the long term. So going into specifics, when we talk about the reach dimension, we are talking about creative combinations of paid, owned, and earned media, like we learned about last week, and how we can combine them to be able to drive traffic to our various platforms to get our prospective and current customers to engage more with our brand, and then become avid believers in the brand such that they find it easy to interact with us. Now, when we are talking about interaction, we are pushing the customer closer and closer towards taking the final plunge. So while we are interacting with them, we are sowing seeds in their minds that will ultimately push them towards making the final decision to purchase a product. So under interact, we do things like getting them to sign up for things. So for instance, you can sign up to a discount scheme or a loyalty scheme where you have signed up and we have given you a code that you can use to check out at any purchase that you make to be able to get a 10% or 15% discount. At the same time, we can also get you to sign up for a newsletter that we will be using to send you periodic communication. And as marketers, in these communications, we never miss an opportunity to remind you that we have products and services that can satisfy your needs. And if you decide to choose us, we will make it worth your while, right? Another way by which we can get them to interact and get them closer towards taking the final plunge is by using the add to basket function. So this function has caught a lot of us over the years, where you are scrolling through a firm's website, perhaps let's say a merchant site, you are seeing all these nice items. And even though you do not have money to buy at that moment, you're just clicking on items and putting them in the cart. And then ultimately you get bored and then you leave the items in the cart, you close the page and you move on. Now, the smart e-marketer has not forgotten that you have items in the cart and will not miss any opportunity to remind you that you still have items in the cart that you have not paid for. Sometimes they will even give you a limited time frame to say that if you are able to purchase the items you put in your cart within the next 5 days, they will give you perhaps a 15% or 20% discount on those items. And I believe some of us have had this experience before, where we've been prompted that we have items in the cart and we should go and complete the transaction.
Yes, please.
Yes, right. That's a typical e-marketing move of pushing the customer to interact with the brand. And by doing so, we can be able to generate valuable leads, because once you get the person to sign up for a newsletter or sign up with their email address to receive periodic communications from your brand, you can be able to push information to them that will sow seeds in their minds, that will push them closer and closer towards actually making a purchase of your product or service, right? And that is essentially what we engage in at the interact stage. So once you are able to get the customer to interact and you have been able to get them where you are sure that they are ready and primed to make the plunge, you now move into convert them, right? And by converting them, you are trying to get them to actually part with their money to be able to obtain the product or service that you are selling. And there are so many ways by which e-marketers achieve this, right? Sometimes they would offer you a discount on the items in your cart just to get you to actually make the purchase. Sometimes they will throw in free delivery just to get you to make the purchase. Sometimes they will throw in so many offers that you will realize you have been so overwhelmed. And sometimes I have ended up buying things out of the pressure to convert, because they keep sending so much communication that you have no choice. Psychologically, they burden your mind so much that you feel like you don't have a choice than to actually buy something. So you just buy it in a way to get them off your back. I don't know who else has experienced that thing, but it has happened to me before, where these people are communicating with me too much. They are disturbing me too much. Let me just buy something, right? And that is how the e-marketer uses all these various means of communication to keep prodding you and priming you until you go ahead and take the plunge and make the actual purchase, right? one easy way that they have been getting a lot of online customers to convert these days is by using the payment options. Can someone explain how they are using this to push leads to convert to actual buying customers? How are they using the payment options? Alimatu, you can go ahead.
Okay, Doc. So sometimes they give you the option of deliver before you pay, so that you be certain that they are credible.
Good.
Or you can pay maybe part payment. When we bring it, you do the other payment, the complete payment.
Good. So that's spot on, Alimatu. Thank you. Right? These are all ways by which they are using payment options to prod you to actually go ahead and take the plunge. Right? So after they have converted you and you have made the purchase, it doesn't stop there. They still want to engage with you because they want to get to know more about you so that they can see more opportunities that they can take advantage of, being the marketers that they are. So here they are engaging in consistent communication with you through engaging with you on their social media platforms, sending you emails, often to check up on you, often to give you some discounts since it's been a while they heard from you or it's been a while you made a purchase, often reaching out to you to find out how your consumption experience with the product you previously purchased went, right? And once they are able to gain your trust and get to know you, they have more opportunities to be able to increase sales to you, right? Through the process of reselling the same product they sold to you again and again, and also through the process of upselling, where they upgrade you and sell you a more expensive version of the product that you're already buying. Or perhaps cross-selling, where they sell to you other products that they sell as a manufacturer, right? Because you have been able to earn, they have been able to earn your trust, and you believe that whatever else that they sell to you will be up to par or perhaps better than the products that you are already buying from them. Naomi says Jumia does that. Okay, Naomi, can you elaborate? What does Jumia do?
Oh, okay, Doc, you were saying when they notice you are not making purchase, then they try to give you like things that will make you want to buy stuff from them.
Good.
Jumia does that. Recently, I have stopped shopping from them, and they keep sending me this discount code to use to shop.
Good.
So sometimes it comes 20%, 15% on any purchase I make.
Yes. Good. So that's a prime example of what I was just saying, right? So they'll keep engaging, right? And they do this by keeping a tab on you, right? They know who their active subscribers are. Okay, Clancy Apia says Bolt does that too. Mami Drowa says AliExpress does that too. Wow, it seems it is the same concept being applied all across. So I guess we are learning something very important in this class, right? So yes, indeed, they are keeping tabs on you by engaging with you. And by doing so, they can be able to ensure that the next time you have a need for their product or service, to a large extent, they will be on your mind when you are choosing a product or service provider to satisfy that need. Thank you, Nuruddin. Right? So once you are done with the race framework, you now go into the implementation of the strategy that you have developed, right? Because the strategy is a broad strategy. Now you need specific tactics to be able to execute each of these strategies. Alimati, you said sometimes they have your bio data. Yes, most of the firms do this using what we refer to customer relationship management software. So they use the customer relationship management software to harvest your information. And they use that to monitor your purchasing patterns, your buying patterns, how often you purchase, the most recent time you purchased, what it is that you purchased, right? And they use all this information to be able to predetermine or predict your next move so that they know what to offer you to be able to push you to take the plunge and actually make more purchases in future. So Alima, to thank you for adding that. Lawrence, you said Kwame from Bolt. Lawrence, who is Kwame from Bolt? Lawrence, who is Kwame from Bolt? Is it an AI or something, or is it an actual person?
No, I don't know whether it's an actual person, but then with the same communication bit, Both always addresses their customers as though it's one individual Kwame. So almost everyone who uses both knows Kwame. He always sends emails, constantly checking up and then asking, it's been a while since you took a ride with us and we are offering this particular discount. So if you use both, you know who Kwame is because there's Kwame from both who always send emails.
If Kwame always sends automated messages and the messages are almost always identical, true or false?
Yes, most of the time. But then the discounts vary.
Yeah. So I'm suspecting that for the discounts, I think they are giving using an algorithm. So the messages that come from Kwame, I'm suspecting is an artificial intelligence that they are using. So they're using AI technology to be able to automate. Good. Yeah. So it's good to know about Kwame from both.
But I'm just talking of the personal touch that they've added.
Exactly.
Because Kwame is an interesting name to use as a
company. Yeah. And I believe that is because they are operating in Ghana, and Kwame is a very popular Ghanaian name, right? And they are using innovative digital technology to be able to support these activities. So as e-marketers, like I said in the beginning of the course, our options are limitless, especially given all the capabilities that the internet affords us. So Lawrence, thank you for sharing. That was very insightful. I personally don't use both. So I have never met Kwame, but right now I'm intrigued. I think I'm going to install the app and see if I can learn more about Kwame. Manaf says my email is full of Kwame from both. I can imagine. AI has no filter. They just do as they are told. Sorry about that, Manaf. Okay, so like I was saying, once you have been able to develop your strategy, you now need to go into implementation. And implementation here involves all the tactics, the actual activities, right? That you put in, the actual efforts, the time that you put in to be able to ensure that the strategies are properly executed, right? So in developing these strategies and tactics, you need to check and be sure that the organization has enough in terms of resources to facilitate all the strategies that you have outlined, right? And even given that your e-marketing plan is a direct offshoot of the marketing plan, the marketing organization and its resources is what you will be drawing on as an e-marketer, given that you are a sub of this group, to be able to see what resources they have and how you can be able to use it to facilitate the execution of your e-marketing plan. So we usually do this assessment in terms of staff strength, right? In terms of department structure, right? The digital technologies and applications that we need, right? As well as the availability of these technologies and applications, as well as staff with the right skills to support these e-marketing activities we have outlined. So one of the prime things that we do as part of strategy implementation is to find out whether we can be able to get all these things in-house or we have to outsource. Because with all these two options come implications. If you are sourcing in-house, it means that the firm already has these resources at their disposal and it's easier to obtain and use them. But if you have to go outsourcing, then it takes you into a whole different realm. Because depending on how you are outsourcing and where you're outsourcing from, it can double or triple the cost implications of the entire e-marketing plan. So you need to be able to think about all these things and translate them into actual actionable tactics to know how you are going to go about achieving your e-marketing strategy. So to be able to clearly delineate all these different resources we are talking about as they relate to the marketing organization, which have to be in place for implementation, given that we are discussing e-marketing, we talk about what we refer to as the 5 Ds, right? And these 5 Ds of digital marketing strategy implementation basically define the opportunities for consumers to be able to interact with our brand, right? And for the business to be able to reach and learn from its audiences, using the resources available to us as a result of utilizing the internet. So in utilizing internet-enabled technologies, we have access to 5 main kinds of resources. We have access to digital technology, digital data, digital media, digital devices, and then digital platforms. So we are going to take each of these one after the other, and then we will dissect it. So let's first start with digital tech. So this refers to marketing technology, or what we refer to as the MarTech stack, that businesses use to create interactive experiences. So when we say a firm has a market stack, it's basically the specific kinds of marketing technology that the business has at its disposal, that it is using to engage in its e-marketing activities, right? Today we can talk about the fact that marketing is driven by technology, but not just any technology, because not all technology is a good fit for a firm's e-marketing strategy. So you need to be able to determine the right kinds of technology and tools that will enhance and upgrade your e-marketing efforts so that you can be able to achieve effective and efficient results. So examples of these digital technologies that we are afforded to be able to utilize in our e-marketing activities, right, which we can put into our MarTech stack, include websites, right, augmented and virtual reality, which we find is being applied a lot in tourism marketing these days, especially because of the COVID outbreak. We have had augmented and virtual reality being introduced by several destinations to be able to sell their destination in the hopes of keeping their destination in the minds of consumers, so that once the COVID restrictions are lifted, people can physically come to their location and see for themselves. So there's two main sites of this nature that we have experienced in the past and that I have used in demonstrations in this class. So I think I'm going to demonstrate. Please, would you like to see the augmented and virtual reality as it's applied to tourism marketing?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
All right, so let's go online. Yeah, and try it out. So there's one for the United Kingdom, and then there's one for Dubai. So we will see if we can look at both. So that'll be London 360, I believe. I think it's London 360. Okay, yes, so it's 360 Visit London. I came close. All right, so this is 360 Visit London. It helps you to be able to see at a 360-degree angle popular locations in London, right? So please, those who have traveled before and have gone to London before, please, what are some of the popular locations in London? Please, those of you who have sat in the planes and gone to London, please help us. What are some of the popular locations in London? Yeah, Big Ben.
Buckingham Palace.
Buckingham Palace is there. Yes. There's more. London has a lot of iconic locations. Who else? Oh, there's a very popular one. It even has the word London in it. The London Bridge. Good.
London
right?
Bridge.
Yes, and then there's another one. That one too has London in the name. Another one. Oh, have you forgotten the London Eye? You don't know about the London Eye. Have you heard of the London Eye?
We have.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I think it's loaded now. So let's start our virtual tour. So once you get to the page, it tells you, welcome to the Visit London virtual tour. These are all 360-degree images. So click and drag them with your mouse or finger and explore some of London's most stunning sights. So we are going touring in London. Please, where do we go? Should we go to Harrods? Some of us, we like shopping. Or we should go to Big Ben. Where do we go to?
I think we should go to Harrods.
Big Ben.
Okay. We can actually go around the city. So are we going to Tower of London, HMS Belfast? Okay, let's go to Harrods. All right. The shopping people have won. The internet is a bit slow today, so please please bear with me. The page is taking some time to load. Okay, so we are in Harrods. See, so for those of us who have not been anywhere but have idyllic memories and very vivid and descriptive imaginations, we can take this virtual tour and later on have a conversation with someone and speak as if we were actually physically in the location, because we can describe every minute detail after taking this virtual tour, right? So we can describe from when we enter the doors and you stand on the escalator and you put your hand on the green strips and it starts moving, right? Okay, so, ooh, okay. So we can either go up or down. Oh, wow, the city looks very nice. So that will be part of the conversation that I will have. Like if I'm trying to convince someone I've been there, like I can talk about the stained glass window in the top of the building and how pretty it looks. You see. So this is what augmented and virtual reality helps us to be able to achieve. You can look up, you can look down, you can go sideways. But I don't believe it takes us throughout the entire store, because this is just one room. We're just looking at the room from all angles. Okay. Now, one thing I want us to note is the fact that they are making strides in applying this technology, but they still have like some way to go. All right. So currently we are just going in 360 in one location. Please, does it make sense? Please, does it make sense?
Yes, Doc.
Okay. So we can go back out and go back to the landing eye, and then we can go to another location. So it seems even though it's 360, it's a static 360. You're at one place and you're just spinning, like that childhood game we used to play. Okay, so please, when you get the opportunity, just go online and then play around with it. There's another one too that is hosted by the Dubai government. That one I've forgotten the name. Oh, someone wants to go to Big Ben. Oh, okay. Let's go to Big Ben then. Where's Big Ben? Big Ben is on this side. Yes. Okay, someone too wants to visit the Queen. Okay, so that will be Buckingham Palace. So let's see Big Ben and then we'll go to Buckingham. Okay, so this is Big Ben. Still loading. All right, so here we are at Big Ben. I believe it will be the same concept. We stand at one place and we spin around. Yes. So we are just spinning around, standing at one place. And it will bring us back to Big Ben. I knew it. Okay, but the name suggests that it's 360. So we can look at the sky, can look down, and then we can spin around. But it's all in the same location. So I believe they are still tinkering with the technology, and very soon we will be able to do more. I think this is because we are looking at it with just the website and we have not added the extra tech. You know, there are virtual reality glasses. You know about the virtual reality glasses? Please, do you know about them?
Yes.
Okay. So the virtual reality glasses can take the experience to a next level, where they can actually take you into specific rooms and make it look like you are walking into different rooms, going to different locations, like you're actually physically there. So I think because we are looking at this from a website, it's more of a one-sided, two-dimensional thing that we are doing. But the virtual reality glasses remove the limitations of the 2D and then put us into a 3D environment where we can actually engage and interact. So when you get the chance, please just go to the site and then abreast yourself with the various sites in London. Again, okay, sorry about that. Like I mentioned earlier, my internet has been a bit unstable, so please forgive me. So please, when you get the chance, just visit the site, 360.visitlondon.com, and then abreast yourself with the sites in London, right? More examples of the technology include artificial intelligence, which we have been able to identify Kwame of Bolt to be one of such. And then we can also talk about mobile apps, marketing clouds, right? And then customer relationship management systems for tracking leads and conversions, right? And that is it for digital technology. Next, we can talk about digital data. And customer relationship management technology helps us to manage digital data relating to our customers. Ekiachan, you said, is the virtual reality glass the same as the 3D glass, please? There are differences. There are differences. So the 3D glass is the flat one that you wear when you're watching 3D movies, right?
Yes.
Is that the one you're referring to? Good. That one is totally different from the virtual reality glasses. The virtual reality glasses are like a box.
Okay.
And they are huge and heavy.
Okay.
And you put them over your head. So it encases your head, and then it's like you are looking into a dark space. But once it turns on, it's like you have been transported from your physical location into a new location.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so you're welcome. So like I was saying, with digital data, the insights that we marketers and then the organizations that we work for collect about our audiences, their characteristics, their preferences, their behaviors. Bear in mind that most of the technology that we use, especially online, are wired to be collecting this information in real time. So the social media pages are collecting information, the websites are collecting information. On our own, the technology that we are using through our mobile apps is gathering all this information, right? So with this information, we are able to understand our customers' characteristics, what their preferences are, what their behaviors are, how they interact with each other. So in doing so, we can be able to deliver them more relevant content and experiences. Because let's face it, online, customers are spoiled for choice. They have several options. They do not have time to be dilly-dallying and playing with us. Neither do we have time to be wasting resources doing hit and miss. So the digital data helps us to be able to get our act together, to be able to do more targeted marketing, to make sure that whatever we are investing in is creating relevant content and experiences for the audience that we are targeting, right? And by gathering digital data, we can obtain huge amounts of information that will help us with converting our leads, will help us to engage in cross-selling, upselling, improving user experiences, as well as getting users and customers to buy more, right? And like I said, almost all the technologies that we use currently are hardwired to gather this digital data for the firm, including our websites. Now, almost every website uses cookies to gather data. We can also independently commission surveys, right? And also use pop-ups to get customers and visitors to our pages and our sites to sign up and give us their information to be able to enhance digital communication with them, and so doing learn more about them by gathering their data. So that is it for the digital data component of the resources that we have to be able to facilitate our strategy implementation. Next, we can talk about digital media. And again, we have already talked about this ample times. We have at our disposal various forms of paid, owned, and earned media that we can utilize over the internet, including digital display adverts, pay-per-click adverts, email, messaging platforms, chatbots, search engines, social networks. All of these are mediums by which we can communicate with our potential and current customers. The fourth digital element in the 5D model that we can talk about is digital devices. And again, audiences experience brands day in, day out in real time as they interact with businesses through their websites and mobile apps, typically by using a combination of connected devices. And currently, I dare say that each of us here owns at least 2 devices that are connected to the internet. True or false?
True.
If at all and you don't have a mobile phone, at least your TV is a digital television. And now most of the new generation TVs that they are producing have are directly connected to the internet. So as soon as you set it up, you connect Wi-Fi to it, and you are online through your television. So the digital devices are countless. Isaac, you are using Hunchback TV. Are you sure? Even if you are, I'm sure you have a smartphone. And I believe you also have a laptop. Isaac, true or false? You have a smartphone and a laptop. Yes, right? So at least you have two devices that you're using to connect. So we need to be able to ensure that as e-marketers, we are conversant with all the devices that our customers or our target audience could potentially communicate with us through. And then make sure that we are targeting them and getting to them on those platforms, right? So if they use smartphones and tablets, we need to make sure that our websites and our applications are optimized to function properly on all these platforms. Today, there are still companies that have websites that are not mobile friendly. They don't have mobile versions of their websites. So the moment you switch to your mobile phone to view their websites, then the site becomes distorted, right? But this is like e-marketing 101. Every website that you have must be optimized for all devices, including smartphones and tablets, right? So we need to be conversant with all these devices, including gaming devices, digital televisions, all these smart speakers like Alexa and Siri, and how they are helping our customers connect and communicate, so that we can be able to use those as primary elements in our e-marketing implementation tactics to get to them, to ensure that our e-marketing objectives will be achieved. Jifa, your hand is up. Kindly go ahead, unless it's a mistake. Okay, it is. All right, before we proceed briefly, I'm seeing that today we have 32 participants. I'm tempted to believe that all of you are registered at the moment. If you are, then you should be connected to Sakai. If you are not connected to Sakai, kindly let me have your index number so that I can add you. But it will only work when I add you if you have registered on MIS for the semester. And you have to do so as soon as possible, because from next week, we will begin our assignments online via Sakai. So please, make sure that you are registered and you have access to Sakai so that you can participate in the assignments. Some of the assignments too are going to be group assignments, and the groups are going to be assigned in Sakai, such that you do not have a choice who your group members are. You join a group based on faith, and once you are done joining, you'll be able to see who your group members are. But that is just by the way. So the final D in the 5D model that we are discussing is the digital platforms. And here we can talk about so many of them, right? All these devices that our prospective and current customers use to interact, right? All use these online platforms to be able to communicate and get their activities done. So among these digital platforms, we can easily mention off the top of our heads always social media, because currently it's the #1 platform that almost everyone is using to engage. But we can also talk about other platforms, right? Like YouTube, right? Like Amazon and other e-commerce platforms and sites, all of which we are using to communicate and interact with our customers. So when developing your tactics as a marketer, your master, your Martech stack. Okay, we are back again. The internet is not being kind to us today at all. All right, so like I was saying, with these 5 Ds that we have learned about in relation to e-marketing strategy implementation tactics, we know to be able to include these elements as part of our Martech stack to ensure that we are utilizing them at full capacity towards achieving the overall e-marketing objectives that we have set for ourselves, right? And finally, as part of our implementation plan, in addition to our tactics, we need to be able to ensure that we beef up our information collection and gathering tactics. Now, there's an element of the 5Ds that helps us to achieve this, which is the digital data aspect. That helps us to be able to use all the various internet tools that we talked about, including cookies, emails, web analytics, online surveys, as well as social media listening, by monitoring comments, likes, shares, and conversations that are taking place on your social media platforms. All of these help you to be able to obtain information to guide you in terms of the tactics that you have in place to achieve your e-marketing strategy. And once you are able to put in place these tactics to work towards getting the strategies executed, you will be one step closer towards achieving your overall e-marketing objectives. But like we mentioned earlier, budgeting is a non-negotiable element of all these stages we have talked about. Because when you are developing your objectives, you need to be able to budget. How much are these objectives going to cost us? Do we have the resources to finance it? If we do, by the end of achieving these objectives, what returns are we going to get that will offset the cost that we have incurred? And we can make similar decisions and inferences all through the e-marketing planning process, throughout all the stages of the 7-step marketing plan, including e-marketing planning, situation analysis, strategy implementation. All of these activities involve the firm having to commit some kind of resources. And here it is worthy to note that the returns that we are going to gain after we have invested our resources in performing all these various tasks and activities can be both tangible and intangible, such that when on one hand you are earning money for all these investments you have made in e-marketing technology, there are other things you also stand to gain, right? A typical example is one particular intangible item that keeps appearing on every single balance sheet. It has been appearing since before we were born and will continue to appear, I'm sure, long after we have gotten into our hundreds and we have gone to be with the Lord wherever, right? Does anyone know this element I'm talking about? It's an intangible element. Does anyone know this element? It's an element of returns after we have invested costs. And it's intangible, and it appears on every single balance sheet. Who knows it? I'm sure you know it. Today, I haven't heard Isaac's voice. Isaac, have you spoken today? No, you haven't.
No, please.
Yeah, Isaac, you should know this intangible return that I'm talking about. It appears on every balance sheet, every single balance sheet. It's older than Methuselah, I dare say. Who knows it?
No, profit is not.
No, it's not profit. Nah, Nuruddin, it's not profit. Hey! Isaac Hariko has got it. It's goodwill. It's goodwill. Liabilities are not returns, Manaf. They are cost elements. It's goodwill. It's intangible, right? Through strategic e-marketing activities, firms have been able to build unique images for themselves and earn goodwill from both prospective and current clientele, just by strategically developing their brand experiences and building a unique image from themselves using the online medium, right? So budgeting is very important because in as much as we are committing resources, you need to be able to keep tabs on how these resources are being spent and whether or not they are generating the desired returns. So in this case, performing a cost benefit analysis will be of huge benefit to us because then we can be able to tell the cost that we have incurred, benefits that we have got, and whether or not they are worth the costs that were incurred to be able to obtain them. So once your budget is developed, the next thing you need to be able to do is to put in place an evaluation plan. Because like we agreed earlier, you need to be able to keep tabs on where you are going, to be able to know whether you are on course towards your destination. So usually when people are going on a huge road trip, they will always put in place necessary measures to ensure that they'll go through the trip safely. But along the way to the destination, they'll always make a few pit stops to do specific things that will help them to be able to guarantee that they're in the best shape to be on track. So once the road trip starts, they'll stop at certain points to eat. They'll stop at certain points and sometimes even swap drivers to ensure that there's always someone who's refreshed and alert sitting behind the wheel. They'll sometimes stop along the way to buy fuel to ensure that the car has enough gas to be able to take them all the way to their final destination. And it's the same way for e-marketing plans. You need to have an evaluation plan to evaluate all the implementation tactics that are ongoing, to see whether they are on course. Are they within time frame? Are they within budget? Are we on course towards achieving our objectives, right? That way, you'll be able to know where there are lapses, and then you can quickly put in place measures to recover before it's too late. Isaac Ofosuhene, what is an M&E plan?
Sorry, an M&E plan as in a monitoring and evaluation plan.
Exactly. It's a monitoring and evaluation plan. That is what it is. So you're monitoring what is ongoing. And that is why in the second point, we talk about the fact that you need to have in place information processing and reporting systems. Because when you are monitoring and evaluating, you need to be putting all the information that you are gathering in a form that is usable for those who are going about this implementation tactics and activities, so that they will be able to adequately see what they are doing right, what they are not doing right, and where they can be able to come up with solutions to fill the gap where they fall short. So it's important to come up with information processing and reporting systems, because information is only as good as its timeliness and how well you are able to utilize it to inform your strategy, right? But what you put into this evaluation plan depends solely on the objectives that you had in the beginning of the e-marketing plan, because that is what will tell you what to be able to measure and monitor, so that you can determine whether or not you're on course towards achieving your e-marketing objectives. And with that, we've come to the end of the 7 stages that help us to develop the e-marketing plan. So what are the various sections that must appear in an e-marketing plan? Now, the first part of the e-marketing plan that usually appears is the executive summary. And the executive summary basically summarizes all that is contained in the e-marketing plan document, right? It gives us a snapshot of each of the sections, and the situation analysis, the objectives, the implementation tactics, the budget, and then perhaps the evaluation plan to help to keep us on course. Then once that is done, I think it usually doesn't go beyond 1 page, because it's supposed to be an executive summary. So it should be brief and succinct and give us a general gist of what the e-marketing plan contains. Now, after that, we go into the crux of the document itself, where we go through the different sections, and then we present a situation analysis. We present the objectives and strategy that we are going to use to achieve these objectives. We outline the implementation tactics that we are going to use and the specific activities that go into each of the tactics. Then our budget for the entire e-marketing plan, right, as well as our evaluation plan, or what Isaac just drew our minds to in the form of a monitoring and evaluation plan, to be able to make sure that we are consistently keeping tabs on whether or not we are on track. And when we do fall off track, knowing when we have and how to be able to recover, right? And then the final section contains references, right? In case you used information from any specific source to be able to enhance the quality of your reports, you need to give them their due acknowledgement. So these are the sections I hope to see in your e-marketing plan when you submit it, once it's complete. So there's one of the major assignments, in fact, the project work that you are going to be doing for this semester is developing an e-marketing plan. Now, this e-marketing plan is going to be developed in the manner that has to do with a firm and how to upgrade their existing e-marketing strategy. So it will be in your best interest to select a firm that perhaps has not updated their e-marketing strategy in a while, or a firm that perhaps is doing e-marketing but does not have any actual strategy or roadmap or blueprints document guiding what they are doing. So that presents you with an opportunity to help them to come up with one. To be able to do this, you have to select a particular organization on which you will base your e-marketing plan assignment. Now, you can choose from an organization that does business solely online, or an organization that does a blended approach of doing business both offline and online, of which we have a lot of Ghanaian firms currently doing so. So once you decide on the organization that you're going to use, you just need to notify me so that we can compile a list of all the organizations and firms that have been selected, so that we don't have one group doing their assignments using the same organization, right? So from here, you'll be able to log into Sakai and join a group. So I'm going to put groupings into Sakai, and then you can go in there and select the group that you want to join. Now, for full disclosure purposes, I'm obliged to let you know that you will not know who your group members are until after you have joined the group. This is to be able to create an enhanced environment for learning and to encourage teamwork, right? Especially amongst please, what's the term? You mix two different groups of people. We want to encourage you to intersperse, right? And interact with each other. In the past, when I have given assignments, I've seen all the MBA students grouping together in one side in their groups, and the MPhil people grouping together in one side in their groups. That is not very ideal. The ideal situation is for you all to mingle and get to know each other and learn from each other. Hence, the new approach where you're going to be joining your groups anonymously in Sakai. So once you know who your group members are, you can just reach out to them on the platform, set up your own WhatsApp group, and then get to work putting together your e-marketing plan, right? And I believe with that, we've come to the end of our session. Yes, Isaac, random sampling is very important to me. So on that note, we've come to the end of our session. Yes, Clancy. Please go ahead. Clancy, go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to ask, how many people